All right, how about now? Can you hear me live? Okay, good. All right, well, that was interesting. Well, we are set up and we are ready to go. So I'll start with the customary roll call. I'll just call your name and you can say, unmute and say here. I'll start. Derek Clark, Kentucky Department for Libraries and Archives. Catherine Giles, KDLA.
Here.
Rob Hill, KDLA. Jennifer Frazier, Court of Justice.
Present.
Michelle Harrison, Office of the Attorney General. Michelle Harrison, Office of the Attorney General.
I said here a few times, but it just now said your line is now unmuted.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries.
Keena Herziner, University of Louisville.
Here.
Shamara Jackson, Lexington Fayette Urban County Government.
Here.
Where is Steve Landers, Legislative Research Commission.
Here.
Farrah Petter, Auditor of Public Accounts.
Here.
Catherine Estes, Commonwealth Office of Technology.
Here.
Glenn McInich, formerly of KDLA.
Here. Here.
Noted. Now for our guests, I will just go ahead and read your names out. Let's see, are there any other members present that have called in? Okay. Guests from KDLA include Michael Saylor, Heath Reynolds, Devin Stivers, Taylor Metzing. And is there someone that I've missed? I see one other phone number.
It may be mine.
Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, I mean, this is Rob. I couldn't get my microphone to work on my laptop.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we do have a quorum, so we can go ahead and begin the proceedings here. First item on the agenda is the approval of the February 5th, 2020 meeting minutes. If everyone had a chance to look at those again. Were there any issues that you noticed, any additions or omissions?
Derek?
Yes.
Sorry, there's a delay, so I'm trying not to be unintentionally obnoxious. There is a missing quotation mark under agenda recommendations, but that's it.
All right. Any other edits to be made? If there are none, do we have a motion to approve the February 5th, 2020 meeting minutes?
So moved.
So moved. Or second, whatever.
Or both.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Unmute and say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. All right, we are good. So I'll keep the announcements brief. I mean, these are interesting times, so we do have a number of programs going on, and we are staying busy. Let's see. I didn't include it on the agenda, even though it was recommended last time, since there's been no movement, but House Bill 88, as far as I can tell, I looked it up. It was last introduced to committee, and there's no further progress. So we'll keep our feelers out and keep our eyes open and make sure we stay on top of that. Little update on what we're doing here at KDLA in the electronic records branch. We are still working on an NHPRC grant to digitize the earliest Kentucky general court cases that go back about 10 years prior to statehood, 1780s. And then we will work on the naturalization records, which include photographs and all sorts of information on like the immigrants' arrival, like the port they came out of, the port they came to, all manner of things. So that will be very interesting to have digitized, and we're going to get a crowdsourcing indexing project going, via one of the options out there. So it really is a good project, obviously, with us half shuttered. I mean, we are open and work every day. We just don't have the staff here to be as far along as we should be, but it is progressing. We are well on the way through a data entry project, converting information on paper records transmittals, like the records as we take them in. It's basically a shipping manifest and doubles as a transfer of custody to the state archives. All of these folders are being painstakingly hand entered into our new collection management software, Axiom. So we are making pretty good progress there, and it's something people can do from home. And I have a couple folks in my branch we're going to get into that project, and just you can't rush it, but you can, the more people we have in there, the better it will go, the faster we'll be through this. I was asked to take part in a focus group towards a study by COSA, Council of State Archivists, about electronic records transfer. And they asked, if we'd had any, successful ones that we could talk about. And after last administration and what by all accounts was a very successful transfer from them, I can talk about it at length. And I think at the very least, if we are chosen, the Kentucky State Archives, it will be part of a paper, like the formal study. I don't know if there will be anything beyond that, but that is be nice to be highlighted and give our honest assessment of what went right, what went wrong, because that would be very beneficial to all the other state archives out there. We received, I think, more email than we ever have, and a number of agency heads and lieutenant governor's papers. So it was pretty successful transfer. All right, that's about it, what we've been up to. There's plenty more, but that's the big stuff. So that is it for announcements. We will move on to agenda item 3, review updates to email management message, which we colloquially call You've Got Mail, and that might just be the title of it. And I've read over this a few times, and I feel like for what it is, we're stating things pretty simply for every government employee. I feel like it's most of the way there. I wonder if you've had a chance to look over it, if you have any additional comments or anything you want to see in there. Yes, Keena?
Trying the raise hand feature here. I had just a couple of sort of minutia that I'll just email to you, Derek. But I had one question in the last paragraph. In that second sentence, it says there are a number of organizational strategies that you can use right in your inbox, not only to organize messages, but in a practical and helpful way. I wasn't sure what that was getting at, or if it was part of, as iterations kind of come and go and stuff, if that phrase, but in a practical and helpful way, was left over from something else, or if you could just kind of clarify what that meant.
So I think it is just adding on like exactly as it reads. We could probably reword it to make it a little less wordy, because after all, we are just letting people know that that statement and the following, little explanation of how they can do it means like you don't have to do anything grand. You can just handle a lot of this right there in folders in your inbox. So I think
So what you're saying is just that there are practical and helpful strategies that are right within your inbox.
we could
that
probably
can
clear it there.
help you organize messages, but then probably keep on top of deleting stuff and auto deleting spam and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Okay.
In
Okay.
in a little one sheet we can't get into in great length, but I do like that this is one page and pretty, understandable for anybody. So I did have a thought about dropping in a link or two. Nowhere does it have, the contact for electronic records management. I feel like we could drop in a URL to that page on our website at least. And then I think that's a kind of a given, so they can follow up and ask questions. And then maybe it's just me, but after we define official correspondence, routine, and information and reference material and the various types, what do we think about dropping in a link to the general schedules? Just in case they want to explore more. Okay. So I would drop the link to the schedules in right after the bulleted breakdown of the message types, and then a link to the electronic records management page at the end of the document. And once we do that and Keena gets her edits to me, I'd like to get this out there. This is a quick one, and I'd like to do what we mentioned, definitely send it to records officers to disseminate, and possibly something grander, possibly agency heads, or I'll discuss that with Catherine and see what's manageable and possible. But now's a perfect time for people to get this.
Agreed. I have a question.
Yeah.
Or a suggestion, I guess, maybe. To address her concern in terms of the phrasing of that one sentence, I may be off base, but would it be possibly more along the lines of what you're trying to say if we use language like not only to organize messages, but also to facilitate access, or to facilitate management and access, or am I misconstruing what the goal was?
It certainly does all of that. I think the
I see
main
her point
main
about,
thrust of that sentence is just letting people know that it can be handled right there in their inbox, like the just the theoretical managing of it can be done in your inbox, regardless of what you use. Yeah.
in a practical and helpful way, just kind of suggests there's more to it than organization. Once she pointed that out, I was rereading it, and I kind of see where she's coming from. But then again, I'm an overthinker, so.
I mean, we could just excise that line. It just adds length and it doesn't really add any information. Or that portion of the line, I should say.
I think so. I think it's just a sentence structure thing. Like
Yes.
it reads like fragmented somehow. So if we just eliminate, but in a practical, helpful way. Or there are a number of organizational strategies that you can use right in your inbox to organize messages.
Yes. I think maybe that conveys the intent more accurately.
Okay, I'm not too sure what Keena has for me in terms of edits, but once we incorporate those, we'll take a look at this again. Yes.
I'm just going to shoot this in an email to you. There's nothing substantive about the edits or anything. So.
Okay. So we'll take that line out. I'm going to drop in the 2 links, whether it's formatting or anything else that is sent to me. Do you all? Yes, Glenn.
I wondered, I thought originally we were going to send this in combination with an email that explained current situation, which may no longer be current, but
The
is
PST
this going to
files.
be sent in combination with another email as an attachment to another email?
This certainly could be. We would need to draft that email.
Seemed like you had one ready to go a while back, but that's my memory, maybe faulty. In combination with some situation where COT was making a change, and we were just trying to reinforce that the need for records management of email in combination with that change. Does anybody remember that?
I do remember that the PST file
Right.
elimination. Yeah, I believe there is an email kicking around that was a draft, and then we got to focusing on this. What I'll do is outside of this meeting, I'll circulate that again. I'll locate it and send it out, and then we can see if this needs to be an attachment or because certainly there should be some. I think after a while, I was thinking this would suffice as the email, and also we could attach it as like a 1 sheet for them to print out. But if there's a concise email body that we can send out with this as an attachment that has a little more detail, we can do it that way as well. So I'll go back and look through the emails that we drafted and we can come up with the best combination of these.
It probably also should go on the website.
Yeah, put that on the electronic records management page. Lord knows the current, well, we took them down actually, but we had some very old email records management guidance up there, and we're going to start fresh. All right. Well, so we will not finalize this until every component is ready and we know exactly how we're going to attack it in terms of who we're going to have circulate this. But hopefully we can settle a lot of this via email and be ready by the next meeting to approve it and get it out there. Unless we don't want to wait. So, yeah. What we'll do is I will go ahead and, since we don't have that original email in front of us, that was, I do sort of remember as a bulleted list. What is the general consensus? Do you want there to be, posing this to the entire group here, do you want there to be an email with this as an attachment, or do you think this would suffice as the as the email and also included as an attachment.
I think it would be fine as the email.
I
It
think
seems
that's kind of
necessary to have an attachment that's just, look at this attachment that explains email.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder if there's still an issue with the change that COT is doing. If so, then I would like to refer to it also, but if not, it could stand on its own, I guess.
So the change COT is making is we're going to Office 365, which is cloud-based in Azure, instead of using PTS file or PST files. Sorry, that we were using locally on desktops before. It's just a different place to house that information, but it's really not. There's really no difference with what I see in the document. It wouldn't change what they would do, the retention policy.
Well, what I recall was we were just trying to reinforce the need for records management when people were making that change. So some kind of reference to that. I imagine this has all kind of gotten delayed with the virus and all of the closing of government, but I think it's probably also important to refer to that. You could, I don't know how you want to handle that, but.
Sure. Most people won't even know the difference between going between 365 and having a local file. They won't even see a difference since they'll be using Outlook and a lot of the tools that they were using before is all I was going to say. But, I know I'm new to the group, so I don't know how much I'm overstepping. So.
Oh, no, not at all. We talked about it back when Phil St. John and John Barnes were in the group quite a bit because it was in the works for quite a while. And their main message was stop like exporting them and storing them as PST files, but instead, upload them to Office 365 so they are in a more, because they corrupt so easily, they're in a more, steady, accessible storage there. However, I had a number of COT representatives in a room with me, and I asked them, the way this was worded, it sounds like you're phasing them out so we can't even open them. And they said, no, that's not at all the case. So I don't know. I don't think it's as imminent as it was, but we should still, if we have this as an attachment and then have the body of it in the email, sort of as that document, what if in a window or a slightly partitioned off page break, we include the PST message as written from COT after this?
And that totally makes sense, that giving people more information so they understand how to store files safely on OneDrive or any other cloud option that they have available, it would definitely be beneficial.
Do you think, Glenn, that that's enough? Because it was always ever going to be just taking their statement on PST files and putting it out there. I believe we're past the date when they said it was going to happen, but clearly we can still read PST files.
Yeah,
okay.
that's fine. I just wanted, from my recollection of what occurred, I just wanted to make sure that if these are sent to records officers and agency heads, that they realize there's a records management component to what a COT is doing in terms of changes to handling email. That's
Yeah,
it.
that's, I mean, as related as it could be. I mean, it's all about, to ensure that they keep their, email for the proper retention, they're going to have to take note of that and copy it to 365. So that can easily be added to the email body. I don't know if I would put it in this document, but certainly we can have it nice and bold down at the bottom.
Right.
Okay. So given that we know what the body of the email is going to be and we know what edits we're going to make, more or less, depending on what comes in, are you all okay at this point with getting this out there once we've made the changes? And I mean,
Yeah.
it's a pretty simple, straightforward document. I think this can go fast. So maybe
Do
since we vote in this group, maybe we can vote on it.
Do you need a movement?
Yes.
Okay. So I move that we go ahead and make the changes discussed and get it sent out as soon as possible.
We have a Brandon
Second.
and then yeah. All in favor, say aye.
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 Yay.
All opposed? All right, so we will make those changes and get this out there to records officers and hopefully higher up so folks can disseminate it among their agencies. So excellent. That being done, we can go ahead and move to agenda item 4, which is discuss guidelines for managing electronic communications in Kentucky government. So we just finished one document. Let's finish this one.
Maybe.
So obviously I put Glenn's, beginning section to the rest of the document in Google Docs. I decided there's no reason that should be by itself. So I'm going to merge those following sections with the mostly completed email portion, just so we can all see the whole picture. And looking at it again the last couple of days, I feel like there's not that much format specific information other than, we've basically the existing entries that Glenn started, it defines them. All we really need to do is follow suit like what we did with email and give some practical records management advice for each format and some examples. And I think that will suffice. So it's really not that much that we need to add. Other than some formatting and stuff, I haven't really had time to add much to the Google Doc, but for those who are interested in editing or writing a portion, would it help if we each just chose a section, a format, and then did it before the next meeting? Because I'm certainly happy to take one, and then those who want to help edit, we can get on that once people start writing on them. I think that would be a pretty efficient way of doing it.
Yeah, I'll take whatever is assigned to me, whichever section. To refresh people's memory, I borrowed this from other states' documents that seemed appropriate. And so we can put in, I stripped out some things that were specific to the state that involved. And there's some links in that document to show you the context of where they put it. But I agree that offering some examples might be useful, but didn't want to make it that extensive, or didn't see the need to make it that extensive.
Okay. Yeah, looking at the various types, I think what's already there, and we can reword it or, we can rewrite it or continue to attribute it to the agencies that it was, the other states that it was taken from. I think a practical example of how, or at least one of the available ways of how one might preserve voicemail, for instance, or text messages, because I get questions about texts fairly regularly. So like, how do you ensure the retention of your text messages? If your phone gets smashed, where do they go? That sort of thing. And so I feel like a little bit of practical, that word again, advice for these other types of electronic messages would help. But not, it doesn't have to have charts or graphs or examples that to the extent that email has, but I think a little bit of guidance, since this is a guidance doc, of how they can maintain those records would be good. So
I felt that I wasn't really qualified, since I'm not in state government now, to comment on what's the software that the state has approved and that sort of thing. So that definitely needs to be inserted as what's approved and commonly used, and then, as you say, some examples of it. And I was hoping, since we were in transition on the last meeting with COT's personnel, I thought COT should be definitely involved in stating what the acceptable practice was, or what people are using.
yeah, we could, name check the available approved software, or we could even like talk about it just in theory about what needs to be done to maintain these records. It would probably be best to have the actual software mentioned in it. And once we finish this, we're going to return to it every now and then to update it, obviously. So, I mean, I'm not opposed to actually naming the software.
Yeah, and it may not be uniform across all agencies in terms of voicemail system and that sort of thing.
As far as some of the approved software, we do have a approved software list that's out on our current website that we might want to possibly link to, because that changes on a regular basis depending on what we have as enterprise solutions. So that may be something that we could look at, instead of putting specific things in the document, and actually linking to that list so they can actually look through and see what's approved by COT.
Are you referring to kits?
Yeah.
We're familiar, and that would be definitely useful to drop in at least once or twice through this document. Yeah, and I mean, the state issued cell phones, I mean, how you preserve those text messages, it's going to differ by the make of the phone. Talked with people with Androids and state issued iPhones, and it's a different process. So
yeah, an explanation of that will be essential in the document.
Does KITS also apply to local agencies? It certainly applies to state agencies, but does COT approve software? Okay, that's what I thought. So we might have to have like an addendum or something that where like this is state or COT approved software for state agencies, but the theory applies to local agencies regardless.
Yeah.
Yes, most definitely. That would help.
Yeah, local government, I mean, can basically contract with whoever, and that's a strength and can be perilous depending, but I've seen it working out pretty often. So, I mean, I can go ahead and if anyone who is interested in working on the writing of these sections, if anyone wants to volunteer for a particular section, you can. Like I'll write social media. Could probably tackle text messages too, because I've worked with that so much, but I can do those two. And if anyone else wants to do voicemail, okay, there's only 3, so I'm doing 2. Glenn, would you like to tackle voicemail, or?
I can, but I'm not sure that I'm familiar with all of I'll look at the KITS webpage and see if that's referred to. I suspect voicemail is part of several kinds of systems, so it'll need to be generalized or refer to what's common practice or several things that use a voicemail system.
Kina, did you have a comment?
Oh, I was just going to say if Glenn, you know, I'm also coming from this as an outsider, but if Glenn wants just a second set of eyes, I'm happy to team up with him. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
And maybe, Catherine, you can, once you see what we've put together, maybe you can comment from a COT standpoint of if we seem to have left something out. I mean, obviously we can refer to KITS, but if you want to be like another set of eyes on these, that would be extremely helpful. We're obviously missing another COT representative after Mr. Barnes left. We need one more member, so maybe the new member will also be able to help from that point of view in terms of recommending specific software.
Hey, Derek.
Yeah.
To the extent it's helpful or necessary, I wouldn't care to volunteer more proactively, but I don't have the tech knowledge or background to be of much use in that regard. But if anybody that's doing that, including yourself, wants an open records perspective at some point, more specifically, then just give me a call.
Definitely. I can send you the link to the Google Docs again, because an open records perspective will need to be all through this, really. And then we're also going to need editors too. So.
Well, as always, be happy to be my anal self where that's concerned.
All right. Okay, so before the next meeting, I will try and flesh out with at least some practical guidance how to deal with instant messaging and social media, because both of those come up all the time, and I feel pretty adept in answering those. Yeah, voicemail we can take a stab at, and link to, we can investigate what's on COT's KITS and as it pertains to voicemail, and get started at least. But I think that all sounds good. And I'm going to combine this and the email portion, so it's all one cohesive document as it's meant to be. And I think that's plenty to do. Anyone have any other observations or anything else they wanted to talk about regarding the guidelines? I know last meeting we clarified that there's going to be a local version of all of this within the same document. So any other thoughts or observations? All right. On that, I suppose we can move on to other business. Is there anything of concern or anything you're wondering about that you want to discuss this meeting? We haven't met for quite a while, so I'd understand if there's nothing, or if you've been saving it up. So. No? Okay. Then on to agenda recommendations for the July 2020 meeting, July 1st. We're definitely going to be talking about these documents again, but is there anything else that you've noticed in electronic records management or anything related you'd like to talk about next time? All right.
On a more practical note, Derek, I was just gonna ask if we think it's likely we'll have a quorum since that's a holiday week. I don't go anywhere, but a lot of people do. It may be too early to ask.
Yeah, no one has let me know, but I'm sure they will. So I can, I'll pay close attention and keep a count going to make sure.
What's the date of that?
Supposed to be July 1st.
I'll probably be gone, but I could probably, if we have another meeting like this, I can attend.
Okay, it will almost certainly be just like this, except
Okay.
a little easier going at the beginning. So you'll be able to attend remotely.
Yes, I'll be down at the beach and maybe a little more relaxed, but
Hush, Glenn.
okay.
All right. Well, yeah, and as always, I mean, if something comes up between now and then, just let me know and we'll keep a count, see if we have a quorum for next time. Well, with that being done, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Well, thank you very much for attending. It's kind of easier to get everyone together this way. So hoping that continues. And thank you for your time and insights. And we will do this again next month.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Yeah.